Oh, very welcome, students. Today we are going to start with the chapter Battling Boats by Mukta Munjal. Now, I'm sure you must have heard about the boat racing festival in Kerala. Well, boat racing is a very popular event in Kerala, and especially when they celebrate their harvest festival, which is Onam. Just like we celebrate Baisakhi in the northern part of India, they celebrate Onam. That is their harvest festival, and during that festival, there is a very popular event which is also a popular for tourist attraction, that is boat racing. And in this story, we're going to read about a young boy whose name is Kuttan and how this boy is eager to participate in the race. But as he's excited, he, along with his cousin, discovers a very dark secret just right before the race. That is the night before the race. So in this story, we're going to read about what secret does he find, and once he gets to know, what does he do about it, and then finally what happens during the race. So let's begin the chapter. That's the last fish sold. Come on, Sukumaran, let's go, said Kuttan, picking up his half empty basket. But there are a dozen coconuts left, protested Sukumaran. So, Kuttan says to his friend Sukumaran that is the last fish that they have sold, and he says that now since we have sold all the fishes, so let's go. And he picks up his half empty basket, which means that they have not sold all the fishes, yet Kuttan is very eager to leave as he's excited about the boat racing. But his friend Sukumaran protests that there are still a dozen, that is, 12 coconuts left, and how can they leave without selling all the coconuts? I don't care, replied Kuttan. Today I won't sit here till the last coconut is sold. I am too excited. So Kuttan says, I don't really care whether the coconuts are left or not, because today I'm not going to sit here just like every day they do. Every day they sit there until they sell all of their coconuts and fishes, but today he is very restless as he is eager to watch the race. Sukumaran looked at his friend a little enviously. How lucky you are to be rowing in the boat race tomorrow. Imagine, you'll be famous. The youngest. Kuttan was already stepping into his dugout canoe, which was strung together with coir ropes. So, Sukumaran says to his friend Kuttan, and he's a little envious. Now, Sukumaran is a boy who belongs from what in Kerala people perceive as a lower caste, and that particular caste is not allowed to participate in the boat race, whereas Kuttan belonging from a higher class, he's an upper class member and thus can be a member of the race. And that is the reason Sukumaran is a little jealous, is a little envious from Kuttan, because he also wants to take part in the boat race, but he is not able to. So he says how lucky you are that you will get to be a member rowing the race, rowing the boat tomorrow. And imagine that if you win, you'll become famous, the youngest. Now, as he's about to say, Kuttan already steps into his dugout canoe. A canoe is a small, narrow boat which is usually made from cutting the part of a tree trunk. And this canoe was dug out by Kuttan and which was already strung together with coir ropes. So, coir is a fiber which is obtained from plants, and the ropes are made from it. The ropes are very strong that are made for it. So, his canoe was tied together with the coir ropes. The two boys paddled away from the marketplace where the fisherwomen in gaily colored saris balanced fish baskets on their heads as they shouted out the prices of dried and freshwater fish, coconuts, and sea fish. So, both these boys, that is Kuttan and Sukumaran, started paddling and they were going away from the marketplace. Right now, they were in the marketplace because they were selling their material, their items, but now they were going away. And in that marketplace, there were some fisherwomen too. So, there were some women who were fishing. in gaily colored sarees. Gaily colored sarees means that they were dressed up in different vividly colored sarees. They were balancing fish baskets on their heads, like as you much must have seen in some village area, that there are women who usually have baskets on their head and they were selling fishes. And along with that, they were also shouting the price of dried and freshwater fish. So they were shouting the price. Barefoot children were frolicking on swings tied between tall swaying palms. Apart from that, there were some children who were walking barefoot. Barefoot, that is, they were walking without wearing any kind of slipper or footwear. So they were walking barefoot and they were frolicking on swings. Basically, they were playing and enjoying themselves on swings tied between tall swaying palms. Now, swings here is not an actual swing that you see in cities or towns. Here, the swing is the one that was tied on the tree, on the tall swaying palm trees. So there were tall trees, which is palm trees, because ideally, as you know, that Kerala is built up. Kerala is a coastal state, and as a result, there are a lot of palm trees there. So on those palm trees, there were swings, and the children were playing and having fun. The backwaters are so crowded today, exclaimed Sukumaran. Everyone's come for the races. So Sukumaran says that the backwaters, now backwaters is a place where the water gets collected and that is present in Kerala. So Sukumaran says that, oh my god, it's so crowded today. Everyone has come here for the races. Then the crowd began to thin out. Which boat do you think will win tomorrow? Shouted Sukumaran, turning his head back to where Kuttan sat in the rear of the boat. Karichal 1 or Karichal 2? So Sukumaran asks his friend Kuttan that what do you think will happen tomorrow? Which boat is going to win the race? Karichal 1 or Karichal 2? This is the name of the boat. Kuttan replied confidently, Karichal 1 will win the trophy. Now Kuttan was very confident about his answer and he immediately says that Karichal 1 is going to win the trophy. Is it true, Kuttan? The whole village is saying that Karur Nilakantha Pillai is going to sell one of his two boats, Sukumaran asked. Now, Sukumaran has heard a common rumor in the village, that is, that people are talking about Karur Nilakantha Pillai is the one who is going to sell one of his boats. Kuttan sighed. Yes, it's true. He can't afford to keep both the Karichals anymore. So he said that whichever one loses in the race tomorrow will be sold. And Kuttan confirms the affirmation and says that yes, that is true. As Mr. Karur Nilakantha Pillai is not able to maintain both the boats anymore, so he says that the boat which will lose the race tomorrow, he is going to sell that boat. But your father is a wonderful captain of Karichal 1, protested Sukumaran, quite agitated. So Sukumaran says, but your father is very wonderfully handling the first boat, Karichal 1. So why does Karur Nilakantha Pillai want to sell the boat? And Sukumaran was quite angry. Yes, but so is Kesavan's father, who is the captain of Karichal too, Kuttan replied. So Kuttan agrees that yes, my father is a great captain of the first boat, and even Kesavan's father, who is the captain of second boat, is also a wonderful captain. They turned into a side canal where there was no traffic on the waters at all. The banks were a riot of colorful flowers. The boys turned into another canal and the scenery changed. The sun was setting on the backwaters. The clouds began to change from white to saffron, then a fiery red, then pink. Slowly, it became shadowy on the canal. So, while they were moving, they turned into a side canal. And on that side canal, there were not much boats. So, there was no traffic on the water. The banks of the river, the edges of the river, had beautiful, colorful flowers. Then the boys took another turn and moved to another canal. And now the entire scenery, the view changed. The sun was setting down on the backwaters, so the clouds, which were initially white, turned into a little saffron color, and then they took a very dark red, like burning red, and slowly turned into pink. And gradually, the entire scenery changed to shadowy dark. So, as you see, as the sun sets, the colors of the sky keep changing, and ultimately it becomes all dark. Sukumaran looked around apprehensively. Apprehensively means that he was worried. Sukumaran was a little worried. He says, I haven't been here before. We won't get lost, will we? I think it's time we got back. So basically, they have come to a different place, and Sukumaran feels that they probably have forgotten the way, and he's worried that they will be lost. Don't worry, I know this canal very well, replied Kuttan. But Kuttan assures him that he is aware of the routes and Sukumaran does not need to worry. The dugout turned a corner and Sukumaran gave a gasp of awe. In the fading twilight, they could see the two boats standing side by side at the bank. So the dugout, that is their canoe, it suddenly turned a corner and Sukumaran was in awe. He was very surprised because in the fading twilight, that is in the setting sun, they could see that the two boats, Karichal 1 and Karichal 2, were standing next to each other at the bank. There they are, Karichal 1 and Karichal 2, Kuttan announced proudly. I helped Achan to decorate Karichal 1 for tomorrow. So Kuttan very proudly says that look, there they are. That is Karichal 1 and Karichal 2. And I helped my Achan. Achan means father. So in Kerala, they say Achan to father. So he says that I helped my father to decorate the first boat, which is Karichal 1, for the race tomorrow. They look identical, don't they? Sukumaran observed. Yes, except for the 1 and 2, Kuttan said. So Sukumaran says that both the boats look identical, that is same. And Kuttan says, yes, both the boats look same. The only difference is one has written first on it and the second has written second on it. The boys sat silent for a moment. They started appreciating the beauty of the boats in the shadows of the bank. The two boats were a beautiful sight. They were decorated with multicolored silk parasols and gold tassels. Sukumaran looked at the colorful spirals carved on the bows and sterns of the two churulans with awe and admiration. He was about to ask another question when they suddenly heard a loud hammering. So now a twist is going to come in the story. So both the boys were sitting and admiring the beauty of the boats, which were decorated. They had multicolored silk parasols. Parasols here means like the umbrellas, like the bigger umbrellas. So there were different colored silk material made umbrellas and some gold tassels. That is a piece of decoration. Sukumaran was also looking how colorful spirals were carved on the wood of the bows and sterns of the boat. That is the churulans. Churulan means boats, as you can see in the picture. Churulan is a type of boat which has circular ends towards both sides. So both of them were looking with awe and admiration. They were admiring the boat and they were completely surprised. And as he was about to ask another question, suddenly they heard a loud hammering sound. The boys froze, hardly daring to breathe. The hammering was coming from Karchal 1. So they were so scared when they heard the voice that they almost froze. That is, they could not even move and they were even scared to breathe. And then they realized that the sound of the hammering was coming from the first boat. Who is it? Whispered Sukumaran. So Sukumaran asks, who is this? Shh, let's wait and see. Kuttan mouthed the words. So Kuttan says that let us wait here and let us see. Suddenly, two figures stood up in the churulam. They looked around cautiously. Then, picking up their lungis, they leapt onto the bank. The cloth fell from their lantern. Picking it up, they sprinted away into the darkness. So now they saw that the two figures, that there were two people who stood up in the first churulan, that is the first boat. Both these people started looking around to make sure that there was no one watching them. Then they picked up their lungis and came back on the bank. Suddenly, the cloth fell away from the lantern. So basically, there was light all over. They picked up the cloth and sprinted away. That is, they moved away into the darkness. The two friends, Sukumaran and Kuttan, stared at one another in amazement. So both these friends are surprised that who were these two people, what were they doing in the boat, and that too so hideously. So both of the friends, Kuttan and Sukumaran, looked at each other and they were surprised. It's Kesavan and his brother, Kuttan gasped. So, from that distance, Kuttan recognized that the two people were none other than Kesavan and his brother. What were they up to? Sukumaran asked. I think I know exactly what they were doing. Come on, let's go and see. Kuttan paddled grimly up to the boat. So Sukumaran questions that what were the boys doing? What were the men doing? And Kuttan immediately understands the purpose of their visit on Karichal 1 and he says that let us go and see. So they both paddled their boat very sadly up to the boat. They climbed onto Karichal 1. Kuttan bent low and examined the sides of the boat. Straightening up after a while, he told Sukumaran, it's exactly as I had thought. Kesavan has made lots of holes at the bottom of both sides of the boat. He stuffed them with cork so that no one will see till it's too late. So both of them went on the first boat, that is Karichal 1, which was the boat that Kuttan helped decorate along with his father. Now Kuttan bent and he tried to examine the sides of the boat. He was making sure that the condition of the boat is fine. He straightened himself for a while and told Sukumaran that whatever he was thinking turned out to be true. Actually, Kesavan and his brother they had made lots of holes at the bottom of the boat so that in the next day's race they will lose the race. Karichal 1 should lose the race. This was the plan of Keshavan and his brother. And what did he do? The places where he made holes, he put stuff there with a piece of cork. Cork is a material which comes from the dead part of the plant. And so that no one will even notice, and by the time people would realize something is wrong with the boat, they would have already lost the race. So, this is what they did. Why has he done that? Sukumaran asked, also bending to examine the holes. So that no one will realize that anything is wrong till it is too late, replied Kuttan. What do you mean? The sides have been cleverly greased, so these corks will start popping open when the boat goes very fast. By then, we'll be in the middle of the lake. So, now Sukumaran is confused that if they made holes in the boat, why did they put cork inside it? So Kuttan explains that they put cork inside it so that people won't realize that anything is wrong with the boat before the beginning of the race, and by the time people would recognize it would already be too late. And he also says that they have very cleverly greased the sides of the cork in such a manner that the moment the boat starts moving very fast, these corks will start popping out, that is, coming out, and as a result, the water would start to come up in the boat and the boat would lose the race. And by the time they will be in the middle of the lake, so they won't be able to do anything about it. So Sukumaran is frightened and he asks, what can we do? Let's go home. We will decide what to do after I tell Achan. So Kuttan says that let me tell my father, my Achan, and then we will decide what has to be done. The two boys paddled silently home to the coconut grove where they lived. So very silently, this time they were silent because now they were not excited, rather they were worried. So they paddled home. Even though they had discovered the sabotage, that is, sabotage here means a damage which is done deliberately to cause harm to someone. Was there time to repair the damaged boat before the morning race? Now the bigger question here was that the race was tomorrow. So could the boat be repaired within the night? After their evening meal was over, the boys sat swinging on a sheet slung between two coconut trees. So you see, usually in the beaches we have these kind of sheets that they tie the ends of the sheet to two trees, and in between a person can easily relax. So they both were sitting. Vasu, Kuttan's younger brother, sat nearby on the rough grass. So Vasu is the younger brother of Kuttan. He was also sitting alongside on the rough grass. In urgent whispers, keeping a wary eye on Amma, Kuttan told him what they had discovered on Achan's boat. So Kuttan told his brother that they had discovered two men meddling with Karichal 1. Oh, that's horrible, Kesuvan, Vasu exclaimed. So, approximately 20 minutes later, the three boys they quickly set off and they moved fast. Vasu held aloft their lamp. So basically, Vasu is holding the lamp in his hand and he is providing the light to guide them through the path, because all around there were thick jungle of undergrowth and trees. Undergrowth is basically the grass that grows down. Reaching the place where the Churulans were moved, Kuttan turned to his brother. Vasu, you climb that coconut tree and keep a sharp lookout. Whistle once if you see anyone coming here from any direction, he ordered. So they reached that place where both the Churulans were moored. Moored means where they were tied together. Kuttan says to his brother Vasu that you have to climb the tree and keep a lookout, keep looking in all the directions, and if you see anyone coming here, just whistle. Watch out for Kesavan and Unni. Kesavan and Unni are the two people who had actually damaged the boat. They might come back to do more damage, Sukumaran said. So Sukumaran warns that especially watch out for Kesavan and Unni. They might come back and would want to do more damage to the boat. But I also want to help you on the boats, Vasu protested. So now Vasu says that I also want to help you. Kuttan said, this is the best way you can help us. That the only help you can provide us right now is to look out for people coming from any direction. Oh, all right. With the agility of a monkey, Vasu climbed the tree in seconds. Now, Vasu, just like a monkey climbs a tree quickly, Vasu did the same. Perching precariously at the top, he called out, I can see very well from here. Perching precariously, basically, he was sitting in a dangerous position because he was at the top of a tree from where there was a risk of falling down. And he says, I can very clearly see from this point. Shh, not so loud, Kuttan gesticulated. So, through the gestures, Kuttan tried to tell him to speak softly so that no one could hear them. Kuttan and Sukumaran leapt onto the first boat with their heavy bag of tools. I don't think Keswan will come back, said Kuttan. He must be happily dreaming of winning tomorrow. So Kuttan believes that now Keswan is not going to come back because he had already damaged the boat. So probably he would be sleeping at his home very happily, knowing that tomorrow their boat is going to win the race. And they were also Kuttan and other boys were also carrying some heavy bag of tools which they were going to use for repairing the boats. They set to work silently and earnestly in the dim light of the lamp. The night was dark and still around them. So now both the boys started working silently and earnestly. Earnestly means very eagerly. The night was dark, there was no one around them. Kuttan said, now, for the last part, it will make some noise, but this is a risk we have to take. So, the last step that they have to take to repair the boat is going to be a little noisy because they were about to start the engine, but they had to take this risk if they had to repair the boat. Half an hour later, they stood on the bank surveying their work with great satisfaction. Vasu shinnied down the tree. So it took them almost half an hour to repair the boat, and after that they came on the bank and they from the bank started surveying their work. Basically they started inspecting the boat to look whether the boat is still damaged or has it been repaired completely. And the both were greatly satisfied because they had actually repaired the boat. And Vasu quickly came down off the tree. Well done! He hugged his brother. He appreciated their efforts. The three boys grinned and then turned home silently. So they were happy and they came back home. Kuttan was up early the next morning, just as the crowds started streaming into the canal threaded town of Alippi. So the next morning, which was the day of boat racing, there was crowd near the canal threaded town, that is Alippi, and Kuttan also got up early. Thousands and thousands of festive people poured in, the men in white shirts and the women in bright, flowered lungis and full skirts in scarlet, cerulean blue, and flaring orange. So there were thousands of people who had come in from different places to watch this beautiful festival. The men were wearing white shirts and women were wearing bright flowered printed lungis and full skirts which were of different colors like scarlet blue, cerulean blue, flaring orange, and so on. Basically, vivid colors. Kuttan's father walked in just as Kuttan had finished tying his crisp new dhoti. So at home, Kuttan was quickly getting ready to witness the boat racing, and the moment he was getting ready wearing his crisp new dhoti, his father came in. Kuttan hesitated for a moment as he was deciding whether to tell his secret to Achan or not. No, he decided I won't tell him. So he wanted to tell his father, that is his Achan, about what had happened last night, but he decided not to tell him. He took his place in the boat with a feeling of great importance. Now, Kuttan was the one who had actually gone to repair the boat the previous night, along with Sukumaran and Vasu. So he felt proud that he had actually repaired the boat, and now that he was in the boat he felt that he is a very important person because he is the one who repaired the boat, otherwise they would lose the race. Floats of Thayam, the traditional dance of the temples of Kerala, and Kathakali went sailing past. So, a lot of women and men there performed the traditional dance forms of Kerala. One was Thayam, which was usually performed in the temples of Kerala, and the other was Kathakali. Suddenly, Kuttan stopped his daydreaming. Oh, we're going to start! The crackles sparkled in the air. This was the sign that the boat race was about to start. Now, Kuttan was dreaming, he was having a daydream that, oh, we're going to win this race and this and that. And suddenly, the moment the crackers sparkled in the air, he quickly became conscious, and said, oh, we're going to start. So, Kuttan's hands were sweating with nervousness. Glancing down the line of spectators, he saw that Kesavan and Unni were grinning and pointing at him. So Kuttan was very nervous because he was unsure whether or not he had repaired the boat properly, or is the boat still going to have a problem. And when he saw the spectators that were standing on the banks of the river, he saw Kesavan and Unni were also a part of the crowd, and they were grinning and they were pointing towards him, basically the boat, because they thought that they had damaged the boat and very soon the boat would not stop working and they would lose the race. Then the track was cleared. 3 gunshots were fired in quick succession and the 1600-meter race began. So the track got cleared, 3 gunshots were fired quickly, one after the other, and finally began the race that was for 1600-meter distance. Kuttan's boat surged forward. The faces of the spectators became a blur. So, the boat in which Kuttan was present started moving forward, and the people who were standing around to watch this beautiful festival, they slowly started getting blurred away. So, as the boat was moving forward, the people behind started looking blurry. Kuttan kept his eyes on the back of the man rowing in front of him. So the person who was sitting in front of Kuttan kept his eyes on that. So he kept his focus on the person who was right next to him, who was sitting forward to him, so that he could also have the same moment of rowing the boat as the person ahead of him. Loudspeakers boomed. Karchal too, very swift, 30 rowers, 60 to 80 strokes a minute. But today, just wait and see. The thought had barely flashed through Kuttan's mind when the loudspeaker again boomed. So, initially the boat Karichal 2 was in the lead, and there was an announcement that was on the loudspeakers which said, "Wow, Karichal 2 is moving very swiftly. 30 people are rowing it, and they are rowing with the speed of 60 to 80 strokes in 1 minute. But today, just wait and see." In that moment, Kuttan's mind was filled with different thoughts. Now, after this announcement, the loudspeaker again boomed, it again made a sound. Karichal 2 is having a problem. Oh no, it's filling with water. It's slowing down. It has stopped. Karichal won in the lead, nearing the finishing line, and it has won. So, very slowly, the announcement on the loudspeaker changed, and it said that the boat Karichal 2 was actually having a problem, and it got filled with water, due to which it slowed down, and after one point it completely stopped. The other boat, Karichal 1, was in the lead. It reached near the finish line and finally had won the race. So, Karichal 1 had won the race. All the 30 crew members leapt off the boat, laughing, hugging, shouting with delight. So, all the 30 members who were part of the crew, they came off the boat, jumped off the boat, they were laughing, they were hugging each other, they were congratulating each other, and were shouting with delight, that is, with happiness. Sukumaran and Vasu came running. Well, did you see Kesavan's face when his boat filled with water? So, Sukumaran and Vasu also came running towards Kuttan, and Kuttan asked him, as Kuttan could not see the reaction, but Kuttan asked Sukumaran and Vasu, how about Kesavan's reaction? How did he react when he got to know that his boat was filled with water? "Oh, you should have seen it," chuckled Sukumaran. So Sukumaran says, "Oh, I wish you would have been present there and seen the expression of sadness and failure on his face." Kuttan yelped with delight. Now Kuttan jumped with delight. He was filled with delight. He was so happy because Keswan and Unni had tried to make him lose, but the reverse had happened. Vasu skipped alongside happily. Oh, what a clever idea it was! Changing the number of the boats and then changing their position. So, what they had actually done was that they had named Karichal 1 as Karichal 2 and Karichal 2 as Karichal 1, and also shifted their position. So, the boat in which Kuttan was actually the Karichal 2, but had a name Karichal 1, and the other boat was actually the boat that they had damaged. So they kind of got the share of their own deeds. "Quite, you idiot!" Kuttan hissed, scowling fiercely at Vasu. So, if someone would hear what they did last night, it could be a big blunder. So Kuttan tried to shush Vasu, and he very angrily told him to stay quiet. "Oops," Vasu giggled behind his hand. All three fled past Kesavan and Unni, who stood rooted to the ground, eyes and mouths wide open with shock. So all these three people, Kuttan, Sukumaran and Vasu, walked past Kesavan and Kesavan and Unni were standing rooted to the ground. Their eyes and their mouths both were wide open because they were shocked with what had happened. They couldn't believe because they thought they had damaged the boat, but the reverse had happened. They wanted Karichal 1 to lose the race, and rather Karichal 1 had won the race. So this was the story by Mukta Munjal. I hope I was clear with the story. And if you have any sort of doubts or any sort of comments, please let me know in the comments.